Hello. Morning, guys. Good morning. Hello. Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Hassan.
My name is.
Okay. Good morning. Okay. So in the room now, I have about 9 students. I have Ganna Gouda, Hassan Gouda, Hassan Ruhaim, Jana Uthman, Lulwa, Mariam, Ryan, Yasin, Yusuf Aoud, and Tadrus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Uh, Yesterday we did part of the story, part 4. As I told you yesterday, you are responsible for what we studied yesterday. It is included in the exam, starting with the title, The Wrath of Rosa. The Wrath of Rosa. Okay? Because the part before it will not come in the exam. So mark this page or mark this title, The Wrath of Rosa will be the beginning of the stuff we are going to be asked about in term 3. And the mark of term 3 will go to term 2 also. Okay, so let me share the screen. We stopped here yesterday. If you remember, we did the part title The Wrath of Rosa. If you remember, Rosa was angry because Max Vandenberg, the 23-year-old Jew, came to hide in their house. And, it was a big problem for the family. If anybody outside knows that they were hiding a Jew, they would be arrested, maybe killed, maybe go to prison. Okay, they will be in trouble in general. I'd like to welcome Yasmin. Yasmin Said. Okay, so the sleeper. The question is, I think it's very easy. Who is the sleeper, guys? And be active, please, in the session. Who is the sleeper? Hello? Who is the sleeper? Lolwa, can you hear?
Max.
Max, okay. Thank you, Hassan. Or this is, I'm not sure who this is. Thank you. So the sleeper is Max Vandenberg. Max Vandenberg. We said that the letter V in German is V. It's like the letter F in English. Max Vandenberg slept for 3 days. In certain excerpts of that sleep, Liesel watched him. So Max was sleeping, Liesel watching him. You might say that by the third day, it became an obsession. I'd like to welcome Ali. So he was sleeping for 3 days, and Liesel was obsessed by looking at him, watching him, to check on him, to see if he was still breathing. She could now interpret his signs of life from the movement of his lips. When he moved his lips, she knew he was still alive. His gathering a beard and the twigs of hair that moved ever so slightly when his head twitched in the dream state. So he was sometimes dreaming, he was sometimes playing with his beard, he was sometimes moving his lips. From these signs, the girl knew that he was still alive. Often, when he stood over him, or when she stood over him, when she went over to his bed and stood over him, there was the mortifying thought that he had just woken up, his eyes splitting open to view her, to watch her watching. The idea of being caught out plagued and enthused her at the same time. She dreaded it. She didn't want to wake him up, or she didn't want to be caught watching him up. She invited it. Only when Mama called out to her could she drag herself away simultaneously, soothed and disappointed that she might not be there when he woke. She wanted to grab the time or the moment when he opened his eye. He had been sleeping for 3 days. Sometimes, close to the end of the marathon of sleep, he spoke. There was a recital of murmured names, a checklist. So he was murmuring a checklist: Isaac, Aunt Ruth, Sarah, Mama, Walter, Hitler, family, friend, enemy. So Max was murmuring these names from time to time while he was sleeping. Okay, so they were all under the covers with him, and at one point he appeared to be struggling with himself. 9. This all happened during his sleep. He whispered. 9 means no, as you know. It was repeated 7 times. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. So Liesel, in the act of watching, was already noticing the similarities between this stranger and herself. They both arrived in a state of agitation on Hemel Street. They both nightmare. Hello? Like, can anybody tell me, according to these two lines, what do Liesel and Max have in common? I want you to be active, please, in the session. Hmm. Uh, Tedros. Tedros, can you answer this question, please? Ted?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Are you following up?
Yes.
Okay. What do Liesel, Max, Vandenberg have in common according to the two highlighted lines here?
Uh, they both had nightmares.
Yes. And they both arrived in a
Arrive in the state of agitation on Hamel Street.
yeah, both arrived in difficult circumstances, and they both nightmared. They both had nightmares all the time. Okay. When the time came, he awoke with a nasty thrill of disorientation. His mouth opened a moment after his eyes, and he sat up, right angled. A patch of voice escaped his mouth, like he was in pain. When he saw the upside down face of a girl above him, the girl was standing over him, watching him. She wanted to see him when he woke up. There was the fretful moment of unfamiliarity. Of course, he doesn't know her, she doesn't know him, and the grasp for recollection to decode exactly where and when he was currently sitting, because he wasn't, let's say, accustomed to this place. After a few seconds, he managed to scratch his head, the rustle of kindling, and he looked at her. His movements were fragmented, and now they were open. His eyes were swampy and brown, thick and heavy. As a reflex action, Liesel backed away. She stepped back. She was too slow. The stranger reached out, his bed-warmed hand taking her by the forearm, and he said, "Please." His voice also held on, as if possessing fingernails. He pressed it into her flesh. "Papa," loud. "Please." She said "Papa" when he heard or when he grabbed her arm or forearm, and she said "Papa" loudly, and he said softly or quietly, "Please." It was late afternoon, gray and gleaming, but it was only dirty colored light that was permitted entrance into the room. It was all the fabric of the curtains allowed. It, if you're optimistic, think of it as bronze. Again and again, the narrator is interested in colors. When Papa came in, remember, Max has been sleeping for 3 days, sleeping non-stop, and he's awake now. He first stood in the doorway and witnessed Max Vandenberg's gripping fingers and his desperate face when he saw Max holding Liesel's arm. Both held on to Liesel's arm. "I see you two have met." So Hans said, "I think you know each other now," he said. Max's fingers started cooling. Okay, so to summarize this part, I want some one of you to do the job. We just read a page and a half about the sleeper. Who is the sleeper? What happened in this part? Mm. Mariam Naqib? Mariam,
Yes, master.
can you summarize this page and a half?
Yes, the sleeper is Max.
Mhm.
He slept for 3 days, and Liesel was watching him.
Good.
And she said that she noticed similarities between them.
Mhm.
They were both having nightmares and both struggling when they came to this house.
Perfect. And then,
Um,
okay. At the end, he woke up and he held her hand. Okay. She called her Papa, and Papa came and thought that they know or have met or have talked to each other. The next title is the swapping of nightmares. You know, swapping means exchanging. When we swap two things, we exchange them together. Okay. So we know that two people here have nightmares. Kiara, can you tell me who are those two people who have nightmares all the time? Kiara,
yes.
uh, who are the two people who are having nightmares all the time here? Mm, The swapping of nightmares. Who are the two people who always have nightmares? Mariam has just said it. Mm. Okay, we have Liesel and Max. Chiara, Liesel. Liesel, the girl, and Max Vandenberg, the Jew. Okay, they both have nightmares all the time. Okay, Chiara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Max Vandenberg promised that he would never sleep in Liesel's room again. What was he thinking that first night? The very idea of it mortified him. Why was he or why did he promise not to sleep in Liesel's room again? We'll see. He rationalized that he was so bewildered upon his arrival that he allowed such a thing. The basement was the only place for him. He wanted to live in the basement as far as he was concerned. Forget the cold and the loneliness, but he preferred to sleep in the basement to sleep in Liesel's room. He was a Jew, remember? And if there was one place he would destined to exist, it was a basement or any other such hidden venue of survival. Because Jews at that time, according to him, should do their best to hide from the Nazis' eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. to Hans and Rosa on the basement steps. From now on, I will stay down here. You will not hear from me. I will not make a sound. Okay, this is what he said. Again, I'm sorry. From now on, I will stay down here. You will not hear me or hear from me. I will not make a sound. So, Ali, who said these sentences, Ali, Ali,
Yes, sir.
who the speaker here? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now on, I will stay down here.
Max.
Max in Vandenberg. Good. He was saying this to Rosa and Hans. Okay, promising not to make any noise, any problem, because they were hiding him. So he was telling them that you did something good for me. I will be as silent, as quiet as I can. I will not try to make or cause you any trouble. Hans and Rosa both steeped in the despair of the predicament. Who can remind me of the meaning of the word predicament, which we said yesterday? Hassan Ruhaim, what's a predicament? Ruhaim? Guys, please, if you are in the room, answer me directly, please. Yasin. Yasin?
A problem.
A problem. A predicament is a problem, or as we say in Arabic, we said it yesterday, warta. They both are in warta, in a problem, in a predicament. Why? Again, remember that it was extremely dangerous to hide a Jew at that time. Extremely dangerous. You may lose your life doing this. Thank you. So, made no argument. They both made no argument. You know, they were arguing all the time, not even in regard to the cold. And they listened to what Max said, although they knew that the basement was extremely cold. Okay, they heaved blankets down and topped up the kerosene lamp. Rosa admitted that there could not be much food, to which Max fervently asked her to bring only scraps. He asked her to bring only scraps of food, and only when they were not wanted by anyone else. Yani, please don't impose on yourselves. Just bring me the food you don't want. Your remains or the dirty food you want to throw away, just bring it down to me in the basement, and I will be as quiet as I can. I will not cause you any problem. Rosa said, nah, nah, no, no, you will be fed as best I can. As best I can, I will give you the best food I can cook. Okay, so Rosa said this to Max when he asked her to give him the remains of their food. She said, you will be fed as best I can, as best I can. They also took the mattress down, the mattress from the bed, from the spare bed in Liesel's room, replacing it with drop sheets. They put some sheets on the mattress, an excellent trade. Okay, downstairs, Hans and Max placed the mattress beneath the steps. They put the mattress, hid the mattress beneath the steps, and built a wall of drop sheets at the side. Under the stairs, there is a place under the stairs. They put the mattress in this place and hid it with some sheets, drop sheets. The sheets were high enough to cover the whole triangular entrance, and if nothing else, they were easily moved if Max was in dire need of extra air. Okay, if he needed some air, if he got choked, he would move the sheets to get enough air. Papa apologized. It's quite pathetic. I realize that. I'm so sorry for that. Better than nothing, Max assured him. Better than I deserve. Thank you. This is much for me. With some well-positioned paint cans, paint is preserved in cans. Hans actually conceded that it did simply look like a collection of junk gathered sloppily in the corner, out of the way. The one problem was that a person needed only to shift a few cans and remove a drop sheet or two to smell out the Jew. Again, and they hid Max under the stairs. They put a mattress again and some drop sheets to hide him. If anybody, the problem was if anybody from the Nazis or Hitler's followers came down to the basement and just moved a can, a paint can, or a drop sheet, he will find Max easily. Let's just hope it's good enough, he said. It has to be. Max crawled in. He crawled under the stairs. Again, he said it. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, for Max Vandenberg, those were the two most pitiful words he could possibly say. He said thank you all the time, rivaled only by I'm sorry. If all the words he was saying, thank you, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry. Okay, there was a constant urge to speak both expressions, spurred on by the affliction of guilt. He felt guilty all the time, he felt ashamed all the time. This is why he had to say these two expressions, thank you and I'm sorry. How many times in those first few hours of awakeness did he feel like walking out of that basement and leaving the house altogether? It must have been hundreds. Okay? He dreamt of leaving this house and leading a normal life. Each time, though, it was only a twinge. It was only like a dream he had, okay, which made it even worse. He wanted to walk out. Lord, how he wanted to, or at least he wanted to want to, but he knew he wouldn't. It was much the same as the way he left his family in Stuttgart under a veil of fabricated loyalty to live. He left his family back. Why? To live. Living was living. The price was guilt and shame. The price for what he did was guilt and shame. He feels guilty and ashamed all the time of what he had done to his family. For his first few days in the basement, now Max is hiding in the basement under the stairs. Okay, Liesel had nothing to do with him. She denied his existence, his rustling hair, his cold, slippery fingers, his tortured presence. Mama and Papa, there was such gravity between them and a lot of failed decision making because they were confused. They are hiding a Jew. They considered whether they could move him. Okay, they knew that the basement was too cold for the man and he was ill. But where? No reply. They wanted to move him to a better place, but where? No reply. In this situation, they were friendless and paralyzed. There was nowhere else for Max to go. It was them. Hans and Rosa Huberman. Liesel had never seen them look at each other so much or with such solemnity. Okay, all the time they were arguing loudly. Now they are confused. They don't know what to do. It was they who took the food down and organized an empty paint can for Max's excrement. Uh, you know, when you want to go to the bathroom, you have a bathroom, but there was no bathroom in the basement. So how could the man get rid of his wastes in a can, in a paint can? Can you imagine it? The contents would be disposed of by hands as prudently as possible. طيب, how can this can be how can this can be emptied? It was Hans who took it out. Rosa also took him some buckets of hot water to wash himself. The Jew was filthy. You know, he didn't have a shower for ages. Outside, a mountain of cold November air was waiting at the front door each time Lisa left the house. Drizzle came down in spades. You know, drizzle is rain which is mixed with some snow. Dead leaves were slumped on the road, dead leaves of the trees in the winter. Soon enough, it was the book thieves' turn to visit the basement. They made her, okay? They made Liesel go down to the basement to visit Max. She walked tentatively, carefully down the steps, knowing that no words were required. The scuffing of her feet was enough to rouse him. In the middle of the basement, she stood and waited, feeling more like she was standing in the center of a great dusky field. The sun was setting behind a crop of harvested drop sheets. When Max came out, he was holding Mein Kampf, the book, Hitler's book. Upon his arrival, he'd offered it back to Hans Huberman, but was told he could keep it. He tried to give the book back to Hans, but somebody asked him to keep the book. Okay, let's move on to page 146. Naturally, Liesel, while holding the dinner, couldn't take her eyes off it. It was a book. It here refers to the book. It was a book she had seen a few times at the BDM, you know, the Union of Hitler's Girls, BDM, but it hadn't been read or used directly in their activities. There were occasional references to its greatness, as well as promises that the opportunity to study it would come in later years as they progressed into the more senior Hitler Youth Division. So, it wasn't the first time for Liesel to see Mein Kampf, Hitler's book. She saw it before during her exercises with the BDM, the Hitler Youth Division. Max, following her attention, also examined the book. She whispered. There was a queer strand in her voice, planed off and curly in her mouth. The Jew moved only his head. Bitter, meaning, excuse me. Uh, she handed him the pea soup. You know, again, Rosa was cooking pea soup every Sunday, and this pea soup was enough for the 7 days. And returned upstairs, red. She was red, rushed, and foolish. She couldn't complete her question. Is it a good book? She wanted to ask him. She practiced what she wanted to say in the washroom. She went to the washroom, stood in front of the mirror, and repeated the question again and again. Is it a good book? The smell of urine was still about her, as Max had just used the paint can before she'd come down. So, ein Gestank, she thought, what a stink. What a stink. The smell of the urine was filthy, was very bad, stinky. Okay? No one's urine smells as good as your own. Mm. The days hopped on. Each night before the descent into sleep, she would hear Mama and Papa in the kitchen discussing what had been done, what they were doing now, and what needed to happen next. Okay, each night, Rosa and Hans were discussing Max's issue. All the while, an image of Max hovered next to her. We're talking about Liesel here. It was always the injured, thankful expression on his face and the swamp filled eyes. Once, only once, was there an outburst in the kitchen. Papa, there was a fight between Rosa and Hans in the kitchen for the first time. Papa said loudly, I know. His voice was uh, abrasive, but he brought it back to a muffled whisper in a hurry. He raised his voice, then he lowered it. He didn't want anyone to hear him. I know, and then, uh, I have to keep going, though, at least a few times a week. I can't be here all the time. We need the money. And if I quit playing there, they'll get suspicious. They might wonder why I have stopped. I told them you were sick last week, but now we have to do everything we always have. Sorry. So, what do you think this argument is about, guys? What do you think this argument between Rosa and Hans is about? I need your answers, please. كيارا، جنة جودة، حسن جودة، رحيم، جنى الجرايحي، لولوى، مريم النقيب، براين، تدرس، ياسمين السعيد، ياسين السعيد، يوسف عوض، يحيى عوض، جنى عثمان. What do you think is the reason for this discussion here? Rosa and Hans are arguing, are fighting. Why? Read the highlighted lines and tell me what are they arguing about. Hello? Jana Garahi, are you there?
Yes, Mister.
Are you following up?
Yes.
Okay. So what are they arguing about? Rosa and Hans. He says here, I have to keep going. Going where? At least a few
I guess
times.
to work.
Yes, which
I
work?
what?
Yes, right, but which work? Which type of work? He had two jobs, remember. He was a painter and an accordion player.
Yes.
Uh,
I guess the accordion player because he stopped painting.
yes, and it's winter now, as we said before. Thank you. So he said again, I have to keep going. She wanted him to stay with her, maybe to look after Max, but he insisted on going to the bar where he played the accordion at least a few times a week. I can't be here all the time, he said to her. We need the money. This is one reason. And if I quit playing there, they'll get suspicious. This is another reason. Okay, he must go. They might wonder why I have stopped. I told them you were sick last week. He didn't go last week. When they asked him why, he said Rosa was sick. But now we have to do everything like we always have. We need to be normal. We need to lead our normal life to make people sure that we're doing this, okay, or to keep people out of suspicion. Therein lay the problem. Life had altered, life had changed in the wildest possible way, but it was imperative that they act as if nothing at all had happened. They needed to act as if nothing at all had happened. Imagine smiling after a slap in the face. When somebody slaps you on your face and you smile, then think of doing it 24 hours a day. You have a problem, you have a catastrophe, you are in a predicament, in a big problem, and you have to lead your normal life. Okay? That was the business of hiding a Jew at that time. If you hide a Jew, you would be in a great predicament and you should look normal. You should look normal uh, to make people think that this is or there is no problem at all. As days turned into weeks, there was now, if nothing else, a beleaguered acceptance of what had transpired, all the result of war, a promise keeper, and one piano accordion. Also, in the space of just over half a year, The Hobermans had lost a son and gained a replacement of epically dangerous proportions. You know that Hans Jr. was lost in Russia, as we said before, in Siberia. What shocked Liesel most was the change in her mama. Whatever or whether it was the calculated way in which she divided the food or the considerable muzzling of her notorious mouth. There was a change in mama, okay? She didn't insult her as usual, or even the gentler expression on her cardboard face. One thing was becoming clear, an attribute of Rosa Huberman. She was a good woman for a crisis. Rosa was a good woman for a crisis. In any problem, Rosa was a good woman. She stood by her husband in this difficult situation. Even when the arthritic Helena Schmidt canceled the washing and ironing service a month after Max's debut on Hemel Street. Debut means beginning or start, you know, it's French word, or coming, yani, or arrival. She simply sat at the table and brought the bowl toward her. Good soup tonight. And she didn't care after losing another customer. Okay, the soup was terrible. Every morning when Lisa left for school, or on the day she ventured out to play soccer or complete what was left for the washing ground, Rosa would speak quietly to the girl. And remember, Liesel, she would point to her mouth. That was all. Don't say any word. Putting her finger to her mouth, telling Liesel when she went to deliver the washing not to say any word to anybody. When Liesel nodded, agreed, she would say, "Good girl, Zaumensch. Now get going." Okay, and she gave her a lesson before she left. True to Papa's words, and even Mama's now, she was a good girl. She kept her mouth shut everywhere she went. The secret was buried deep. Okay, Liesel kept the secret successfully. She town walked with Rudy, and she always did, listening to his jabbering, his chatting. Sometimes they compared notes from their Hitler Youth divisions, Rudy mentioning for the first time a sadistic younger leader named Franz Deutscher. If Rudy wasn't talking about Deutscher's intense ways, he was playing his usual broken record, providing renditions and recreations of the last goal he scored in the Hemel Street Soccer Stadium. Okay, I know Liesel was assured, or would assure him, I was there. I know how you scored this goal. So what? So I saw it, Zaukerl. I saw this goal. Okay. How do I know that? For all I know, you were probably on the ground somewhere licking up the mud I left behind when I scored, he says to her. Perhaps it was Rudy who kept her sane with the stupidity of his talk, his lemon soaked hair, and his cockiness. He was vain. He seemed to resonate with a kind of confidence that life was still nothing but a joke, an endless succession of soccer goals, trickery, and a constant repertoire of meaningless chatter. As also there was the mayor's wife, and reading in her husband's library. It was cold in there now, colder than every visit, but still Liesel could not stay away. She would choose a handful of books and read small segments of each until one afternoon she found one she could not put down. It was called The Whistler. Remember this title? She was originally drawn to it because of her sporadic sightings, of the Whistler of Hemel Street. I will stop here because the video will stop and see you after the break, inshallah.